Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So, in this episode, I wanted to cover the ongoing conflict between Sudan and Ethiopia. So, there's been very recent reports within the last 24 hours of a uptick in fighting along the border, specifically in this area on my map. Uh, and the fighting continues, and in some cases, depending on the source that you are looking at, the fighting is reported as heavy. But let's have a look at kind of the area and what I think is occurring. So first off, the one thing that you will notice is a very real lack of infrastructure, and a lack of infrastructure uh, does not facilitate what I would define as intense fighting. And if you will start kind of like in the northern part of Ethiopia, along the near the town of Hamora. This is where we can see the Eritrean forces coming into play and moving into areas along the Sudanese Ethiopian border. These Eritrean forces are more like mercenaries, and uh, right now the Eritrean army is obviously helping the Abiy Ahmed regime. So major resource nodes obviously is Hamora, and then further south is the contested town of Brecht, and this town is also controlled by Ethiopia, and there are Amhara militia units operating in this town. There is Eritrean forces, and obviously some regular Ethiopian units as well. But this conflict, if you look at the resource nodes, and you look at the next largest city or town in the area for Sudan, you have to go in a westerly direction to really find where the Sudanese resources are. And again, it's just the distances between major towns and resource nodes is fairly significant, and the road work is poor a lot of times. Some of it is paved, some of it is not. The vast majority of Sudanese combat power and combat resources is based near Khartoum, and obviously forces would need to be moved from Khartoum to these areas in order to engage Ethiopian forces. There's not a lot of air bases in this area that Sudan can use. And the same is for Ethiopia, but not as pronounced. Ethiopia probably has access to a bit more infrastructure in terms of larger towns near this border that it can use to draw regional militias and volunteers to assist in this conflict. And this conflict is really a regional concern. And what I mean by a regional concern, it really affects the peoples that would live in a 100-mile radius of this area. So what I say, is this a national concern for Khartoum? Is it of the most vital national interest, where we could see a lot of regular Sudanese military units? No, I don't think so. I think the biggest concern right now for Khartoum and Sudan is the Grand Renaissance Dam. Now, that's not to say that Khartoum is sending forces in this direction to assist regional militias in what they feel is their rightful claim on this disputed area, as is Ethiopia. I believe that Ethiopia probably has much greater concerns in terms of the ongoing conflict that is taking place in Tigray. And at the same time, it is also dealing with an uptick in some very significant operations by the OLA, the Oromo Liberation Army. So this area is probably third on the priority list for the Ethiopian military. Again, I don't believe it is large Ethiopian units that are going to be involved. I think you're probably looking at regional militias in the area, and that is really what we are looking at. I don't believe we will see a major conventional war between Sudan and Ethiopia over this area. Again, there would have to be a significant improvement in the infrastructure to facilitate a movement of large-scale conventional forces in the area. Now, at the same time, we do know that Egypt is assisting Sudan, and there is some road work being done to improve the movement of forces to this border. But if anyone were to go to Google Maps and just take a look at exactly what and just how sparse the area is that we're looking at, um, again, it just really does not facilitate large conventional movements of forces. It really doesn't. And I think we'll continue to see uh, larger skirmishes, especially with these regional militias that exist on both sides of the coin, Sudan and Ethiopia. And that sort of fighting will take place. Is it always controlled by the national governments in Addis Ababa and Khartoum? No, I don't believe it is. I think some of these regional units are operating very autonomously. There may even be localized commanders that are operating on their own initiative at times. It would be very difficult to believe that Ethiopia would be looking to get into a major engagement with Sudan over this border at this point in time. Could it occur at a later date? When things are different on the ground in terms of other parts of Ethiopia? Possibly, but the time just does not seem like a very good time for Ethiopia to be launching military endeavors against Sudan, and the Sudanese-based government as well has gone through immense civil strife. It also has some definite internal issues. It has issues with South Sudan. So it doesn't seem to be very viable for Sudan as well to enter into a major military engagement with Ethiopia. But again, that's not to say that we'll see local actors, local regional militias that are operating on their own. Now, I would say that this town of Brecht, which, if you look at a map, appears clearly on the Sudanese side of the border. Now, could we see a move to secure that in what appears to be the actual Sudanese border? Yeah, I think we could see that, and we could see the continued observation of what Sudan believes is the border. But could we see an eventual all-out war where we could see deep penetration raids and offensive operations either by Ethiopia or Sudan, deep into Sudan or deep into Ethiopia? I've seen some comments on the board discussing the seizure of Gondar by Sudan. And I don't think that's reasonable and rational at this point. It's something that right now I don't believe Sudan has the capability nor the desire to move that deep into Ethiopia proper. But we'll continue to watch what is happening. I anticipate further fighting by, again, local, regional level militia units with the support of possible national forces as well. But an all-out conventional war, I do not see that happening at this time.